We're going to turn now to a GMA exclusive. Representative Maxine Waters of California speaking out in her first television interview since the bipartisan House Ethics Committee charged her with misusing her office for personal gain. The charges involve her husband's investment in a bank that was granted millions in government bailout money. Specifically, the committee found that Waters' chief of staff, who is also her grandson, worked to get that government help for the bank. The trial is set for this fall, and Congresswoman Waters says she is going to fight, not settle. She joins us this morning from Los Angeles. Thanks for getting up so early, Congresswoman.
You're welcome. Good to be with you. As
I said, you said you're going to fight these charges hard, and you summarized your defense very succinctly in a PowerPoint presentation last week. We're going to put it up now. It said no benefit, no improper action, no failure to disclose, no one influenced, no case. But let's look at the evidence compiled by the House Ethics Committee. They say that you did benefit, that your husband had a $175,000 investment in a bank called One United, and the bank received $12 million in government bailout money from the TARP. And it goes on to say, if One United had not received this funding, your husband's financial interest would have been worthless. Therefore, you did personally benefit. Your response?
That's absolutely not true. First thing you'll find is the decisions about who to fund were made by the FDIC and by the Treasury Department. And representatives from both of those agencies have said publicly, nobody influenced them, nobody called them, nobody wrote to them, nobody did anything that interfered with their decision making. One United was vetted properly, they met the criteria, and they received TARP funding. And you have to know, George, that the meeting that is referred to that I set up was at a time when there was not any TARP program. There was no TARP program at that time, so I could not have influenced anybody about TARP.
Let me stop you right there, because that is true. But
yes.
Then after that, and the Ethics Committee goes through this, your chief of staff, they say he was actively involved in helping the bank request money from the Treasury Department and crafting legislation authorizing the Treasury to set up this TARP fund.
That is absolutely not true. If you take a look at the allegations, you will see that they cannot identify anything that he actually did. Did he call somebody? Did he write a letter? Did he ask me to do anything? They have not been able to identify what it is he supposedly did.
They did have at least one email that I want to put up. It was from September 19th, 2008, from your chief of staff, McCall Moore, to a staffer for Congressman Frank, who is the chairman of the Financial Services Committee. It says, OU, which stands for One United, the bank is in trouble. That does seem to be a kind of action alerting the chairman of the committee.
So what does that mean? Is that the kind of emails that are sent between staff? It's more staff chatter than anything else. It does not identify that he took any action. He responded to any email, and we did not receive, and my husband did not receive any benefit from any of this. As a matter of fact, it's a kind of a complicated case and a little bit hard to understand all of the details of it. But as you know, One United qualified because they were adequately capital and they were a CDFI institution. Their capital came from the private market. They received private capital to secure that bank before they got TARP money, so that any investment that any of the investors had was secured by the private capital and not by the TARP funding.
But wouldn't they have failed if the TARP money didn't come through?
I beg your pardon?
Wouldn't the bank have failed if the TARP money didn't come through?
That has nothing to do with my case. The fact of the matter is, if you're accusing me of using my influence to get them TARP money, when in fact there was no TARP money involved when I arranged access for a trade association, the NBA, to meet with the treasurer, that's not a question that deals with this case at all. Maybe they would have failed, I don't know, but the fact of the matter is they had private capital and they would not have failed if they had not gotten any TARP money, because they had gotten the money from the private market to make them adequately capitalized.
One of the things that the Ethics Committee points out is that you realize yourself that you shouldn't be involved in this. I want to show another email from you. It says, I realize that I perhaps should take a distance from that. I should not be involved in that. Yet after you said that, and I think this was said to the chairman of the committee, your chief of staff did have these various emails, various contacts with other staffers, and they're saying that you should have stopped him from taking
No,
any kind of
that
action?
is not, George, that's misinformation. As a matter of fact, the meeting that I arranged with the Treasury was about the loss of preferred stock investment by the banks in the trade association when we took over and placed Fannie and Freddie in conservatorship. That took place early September. And the conversation that you're referring to took place in early October, long after that meeting had taken place, and only when One United was interested in TARP. That's when I said to Barney Frank, they're your constituents, they're headquartered in your district, so you should take a look at this. I was out of there.
We only have a few seconds left. The Ethics Committee is bipartisan, 5 Democrats and 5 Republicans. If these charges are so groundless, how did this happen to you?
Well, as a matter of fact, we have the OCE. That is the initial committee that takes up concerns or criticism or complaints from the public. They can take a telephone call, a newspaper report, or anything. It is recently established. It is not very tight. They don't do very good work, rather sloppy work, and a lot of complaints from members about the OCE. Wow. And of course, when they referred it on to the subcommittee of the Standards Committee or the Ethics Committee, Ethics Committee.
I'm going to have to interrupt. We only have 5 seconds left. Thank you very much for your time. It is clear you're going to fight, and thanks for sharing your story with us this morning.